I was going to ask you what you remember about coming over to America.
Oh,
So I have that on. There. I'd like to record your memory of when you left Estonia, and then you went into Germany, and then you were in the camp there, and you had school, right?
yeah.
So what do you remember of that?
Well, the school was mostly. I really didn't go to a German school. In the camp was actually Estonian school.
It was Estonian school, and that was in Berlin?
No, that was in Geislingen.
Geislingen?
Geislingen, yeah.
Geislingen?
Yeah, I didn't. In Berlin, I didn't go to school at all.
Oh, but you were in Berlin.
Yeah, I was in Berlin, but we were not that long a period of time. It was just a short period when the Russians were coming in. We just moved out again.
But didn't your mom work in the post office there in Berlin, or no?
Yeah, she worked in Berlin post office.
In Berlin post office, and where did your dad work?
Same place.
Oh, they both worked in the same post office in
Yes.
Berlin?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did they ever work with an Albrecht?
Albrecht?
Albrecht? No?
No.
Okay. He was one of he worked with the postmaster in Berlin there.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I was reading an article about it.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Was he in military?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was initially in military, but then he designed some stamps and things like that. And he worked with the postmasters there in Berlin. So I was wondering if your mom and dad actually knew him.
Probably.
Because it was during that time. It was 1944.
Yeah.
When you guys were there.
Yeah, 44, 45. Yeah.
So, okay, so you were in Berlin just for a short time while your mom and dad worked in the post office. And then, how did you leave Berlin? How did you leave there?
Well, Mom struck up a friendship with a German woman that worked in the post office.
Oh, okay.
And she had a house outside Berlin, outskirts of Berlin.
Right.
And she told Mom, if we paid rent, it wasn't outrageous, it was just enough to take care of the expenses that they would have. But they were kind people that they didn't rake us over the coals. They just wanted a little bit of expense money, and we paid them.
And you shared the same house with them?
Yes.
And you all had one room, or?
Yeah, we had, but kitchen was used both.
Okay.
But the bedroom was separate, and it was a nice house, I remember that. And it had a bedroom that had Germans were very proud of their feather, what do you call it, blankets.
Oh, blankets.
Yeah.
Oh, the Dow
Yeah,
feather blankets. They were stuffed with the duck feathers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they gave us one to use while we were there, so that was warm.
You were there during the winter?
Yeah, you didn't need a blanket with those duck's feather. Man, they were warm. And
she had it, and the woman that you stayed with had a family?
Yeah, I had a family, and her son was in military.
You don't remember her name, though, or the son's name?
I could probably look it up from our archives.
But it was a wife and husband, and they had a son.
Yeah, and the son was in what do you call it?
SS? Was he in the SS?
No, he was what do you call it? When
Colonel?
When they take you in, subscription.
Subscription?
Yeah, meaning they just go through the names list and say you coming in, you coming in, you coming in. So he wasn't a freelancing. I mean, he didn't join on free will.
Oh, yeah, he was drafted.
Yeah, drafted.
Yeah,
that's what I meant. Yeah, and he was.
But he was in the German army.
Yeah, but he was also an officer, like lieutenant or something like that.
So did he go to the camps during that time?
Yeah, he went to Russian front.
Oh, the Russian front. He didn't, because Germany had the Holocaust camps. He wasn't part of that.
No, he was a strict military, and he was drafted in military, and he was sent to the Russia to fight the communists over there. So he was.
So you never met the son?
Even if I did, didn't make impression. He was a ranked lieutenant, all right. He wasn't just a regular soldier. So he was ranked.
So you stayed in that house for a while. Then how did you leave that house?
Well, they after a while in Germany, the Polish people got together, made a camp someplace. The Latvians got together, made a camp. Estonians got together, made a camp in a certain city.
Oh.
And we ended up in Passau, which was the most beautiful city I ever seen. That Passau, I have some pictures of it. That city was 3 rivers were coming together. Each river was a different color. So when they came in, they all mixed into one.
Uh-huh.
And it was mountains all around. So we were the river was down below, and mountains were all around the river, which was good for us because the planes couldn't come in to bomb us because we were way deep down in the,
Yeah.
Well, they could have if they really wanted to, but we never really had an airstrike in Passau. But in Berlin was hell on wheels.
But the camp in Passau, what was that? Were you in tents, or what was the camp?
Well, we were in this was actually we were not in German camp in Passau.
But it was in Germany.
Yeah, but we knew again. Oh, hey, that's how we got to the Passau, and because in Estonia, one of the German military, maybe ranked like a colonel in German military.
Right.
And I remember the guy had, the regular soldiers were around him, opening the door, car door for him, driver, he had a separate driver for himself,
Right.
and so he was a big shot colonel,
Right.
ranked. So, and he said, if you ever get to see, that was in Estonia, what was happening
Right.
this.
And you let him stay in the house in Estonia.
Yeah, we
That's
let
what
him
happened,
stay in
yeah.
our house. Well, there was no letting. He
Yeah.
walked in, he says, I'm taking this bedroom, I'm taking this living room,
Uh-huh.
You
Was
gotta
that
say
in
no
19
and
yeah,
get shot because you can't let
That was 1943.
Yeah,
That was before. That was when you were still in Estonia
yeah.
in 1942,
yeah,
1943, somewhere
Yeah,
in there.
44, 45 is when,
Well, 44, 45 is when you went over to Germany.
yeah. And then after we, he told us, he gave the address in Passau of his relatives. He took a liking to us, even though he was a German military ranked officer, with a driver, his own driver, and a guy that was shining his shoes, and so he was at least a major.
But you went from Estonia to Passau, and then Grandma and Grandpa worked in the
Post office.
But then you met the woman. Then Grandma met the woman at the post office. Then went to her house.
Yeah.
So So you went from Estonia to Passau to the second house.
Yes.
So you got out of the camp first. You went from Estonia to the camp, and then from the camp to that woman's house. Or did you go the other way? You went from Estonia to the woman's house, then to the camp.
No, we went to the camp first.
You went from Estonia into Germany, into the camp, and then you stayed in the camp for a little bit, and that's where she got the job in the post office, and then met the woman,
Yeah.
and then then the woman invited you to pay rent in the house, and that got you out of the camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so you stayed in the woman's house
Until the end of the war.
until the end of the war, and so the Americans came in, and you were in the home. You were in that woman's home.
Yeah, it wasn't.
You must have gone from that woman's home to somewhere else.
Again into a camp.
Oh, back into another camp?
Yeah.
The same camp or a different camp?
Different camp.
Oh, different camp.
Where they were all like Latvians were in one section, Estonians in another, Polish were in another section. They had a huge 5,000 refugees in that camp. 5,000.
Yeah.
And you know, Hungarians, Polish, they're all speaking different. You walk down the street of the city, you could hear everybody talking different language. Yeah. German, Polish, Hungarian, Estonian, Latvian on the street.
Right.
Yeah, it was like a bazaar.
That was in Passau.
Yeah, in Passau. And very beautiful city. Passau was on 3 rivers came together.
How close was it to Berlin? Could you walk between the two cities?
No, you couldn't walk. No.
So how do you go between the how did Grandma go to work if the post office was in Berlin?
Yeah, the main post office was in Berlin.
How did she go from living in Passau to working at Berlin?
Again, displaced person camp. We ended up in Berlin in a camp.
So she only worked in the post office when she was in the camp.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in Berlin she was again in the post office, and Dad was there too. Dad worked there too.
Right.
And
so when you guys were living in the house with the woman, then she wasn't working at that time? Grandma wasn't working then? Because she met the woman in the post office.
Yes.
And then you went and paid rent in her home.
Yeah.
So when you were living in her home, nobody was working?
No, she had either she had 2 homes, because we didn't live with them in the same house.
Oh, okay.
I remember we had a separate rooms someplace else. She must have known somebody, the German woman that knew somebody that had extra space in their home.
Okay.
And talked to that woman, and of course they demanded rent. So Mom worked in the post office, got paid, Dad worked there, and we paid rent to that woman.
Okay. And that was a house, not an apartment or anything?
That was a house, yeah.
With a yard and all that?
Yeah.
And you had neighbors? Did you go out and play with the neighbors and things? Because you were a teenager.
Yeah, we didn't really. Germans, we were sort of not really that close, because the language was a barrier. Because I didn't know any German to speak of at the time. Neither had my dad was very poor in language. Mother was a little bit better.
So how did you actually get out of Germany? Did the Americans came in and said the war was over, we're taking you, or what did you do then?
Then we ended up in another camp.
Oh, you went into another camp where they put everybody together.
Yeah, everybody Polish and all the different nationalities were in that one camp.
In that one camp, okay.
And then, of course...
and the Americans did that?
Yeah.
Americans forced everybody into one camp?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
really
there's many camps, you know, because it was so many people, you know, like the camp we were in was like 5,000 people in it. And then, of course, requests came in, like in when we were in a camp there,
from other countries.
That they wanted workers.
Yeah.
They wanted, like in our case, was you had to have 2 kids, no more, 2 kids, and certain age, so that they could pick berries and do that and on the farm. And Dad was doing the heavy labor, and Mother was maid in the house.
I remember the option was you could either go to Australia or you could go to Olympia. Yeah. Those were the 2 options for you.
Yeah.
And you chose Olympia.
Yeah. Australia, because Australia was so far for us to even think about it, you know. But we did think about it. But it would have been a long trip from Berlin to Australia.
Well, America wasn't exactly close either.
Yeah, but what everybody was talking about America, they said the life is so much better than any place else that you can imagine. You know.
So people talked about it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the people that had gone there, you know, already had written back, you know, the camp saying blah blah this and that thing. the pay is good and you can live, and you can even put some money away, blah blah, this and that, and
so from the camp, once you signed up to go to America and Olympia, they just came and grouped you together and then took you on a train or
first train and then to a ship, of course.
Train and then to the ship, and then you came through New York.
Yeah, but
and then from New York,
there was one little thing that you had to pay back. The trip.
Yeah, you had to pay the trip back.
Yeah, like if they gave you a ticket on a bus to go from Geislingen to Augsburg, not Augsburg, Bremerhaven. Bremerhaven was the gathering point where you got on the ship, and from Bremerhaven you went with the ship, and of course you had to pay back. A lot of people had collected money already from working in Berlin, and
you had
paid
to pay
their way.
Different people all along the way.
Huh?
You had to pay different people along the way.
Well,
or is it one person that you had to pay back?
It's one person was taking care of.
Oh, okay. Because there's different trips. I mean, you had to pay a train, you had to pay a boat.
Yeah.
You had to pay another train.
Yeah.
So one person organized all that.
Yeah. Francine, I remember her. She was
Francine.
an old lady, and she was here and there and everywhere. God, she was.
So she got groups of you together and said, and made your dad probably sign something and said, okay, I'll take your family to America, but you have to pay me back.
Yeah, the farmer.
Yeah.
The farmer row farm was huge compared to what we've seen before. There must have been, that farm must have had laborers, but I would 30 to 50 people working there.
Did you all go over as a big group from Germany? You have 30 people all went over together?
Yeah, to this farmer. The row farm was huge. They grew broccoli and all kinds of berries you can imagine, raspberries to strawberries to, the younger people were picking the berries. Older people were cutting broccoli, and he had also apple farm, he had cherry farm. So people were all sent to these different places to work. And of course they got paid, it wasn't a free labor.
Right.
They paid. So people were quite happy about the whole thing, and then it got to the point where they liked it so well there that the farmer said, I will furnish all the material if you want to build houses.
Right.
7 houses he paid to have it built. Of course, labor was from all of us, and technique was from us. We wouldn't hire,
so you all built houses and
but
lived in them while you worked the farm.
Yeah,
and then left the houses behind.
Oh
right?
yeah, it was his material.
His land. Well, his land too.
Yeah, his land too. Yeah.
So you built a house on his land. I mean, why wouldn't he have you do it?
Yeah, and so it's almost free living in that the houses. And the houses were not matchboxes. It was actually better than this place I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everybody built for themselves.
Right.
They figured in the end, the farmer said, you can buy it after house is built, and you can buy the house afterwards.
Yeah.
You pay me for the labor and the material, and it's yours.
Right.
And that's on that basis. Everybody went to work right away and did the best they could because they figured they were going to live in it.
Right. But then when the time came, he asked too much for the house, and you guys all decided to go somewhere else.
Yeah. It was too steep to pay. I mean, some people did. They somehow scraped the money together and paid for the material, and it was theirs.
Did you get a tract of land with the house? Or no?
The land wasn't worth to talk about.
Okay, so he didn't give you like an acre of land with the
No,
house?
no, it was just a dirt road, and next to the dirt road there was 7 houses, and there was no backyard, no front yard. It's just a house there.
Right.
But the houses were inside were pretty nice, and the winter time it was nice and warm.
Yeah.
And it had nice windows in it, and it wasn't a bad place to live. And but the price was a little too steep for all of us. because how much can you make picking berries and cutting broccoli?
Yeah.
And apples now, the farmer row farms, they also had a huge apple orchard over in Wenatchee. So he had another camp like that in Wenatchee that he built up. The houses were not as nice. They were barracks, military barracks type houses. And apple pickers, the people made money picking apples, And the price wasn't that bad for labor that he paid for apple picking. Because mostly it was adults doing it. It wasn't kids. They didn't want the apples to be marked or so they were all very nicely picked and put away.
But you probably all ate a lot of apples and broccoli and berries, and so you ate pretty good. Those are all very nutritional.
Yeah, that was all nutritional, and nobody asked that as long as they didn't go wild and start taking boxes home and to sell or something. For individual use, nobody asked for anything. You did. And he also, the houses he put in, I think there was like 7 houses. I have a picture of the area where all the houses are in a row.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures.
Yeah, so, he put in a water system and septic system and so he put a lot of money into those places. Of course, later on, after we all left, it was all this with the understanding that it goes back to him because it's a land disease, and so forth. They're all reverted over back to him.
Right.
So he could hire. Then the Indians came later on to live in his houses and pick berries and so forth, and broccoli. Yeah. So it was a huge 11,000 acre farm.
Maybe 1,100? I don't know about 11,000.
No, it was huge.
Yeah.
It was huge.
In Olympia?
Lacey.
Lacey.
Yeah, out of Olympia. It's a huge. You could drive with a car to get from one place to another. That's how big.
It's probably a shopping mall now.
Probably. Yeah.
So, all right. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't. People were complaining, about this and that and shit, Somebody got something better, and everybody was looking out for themselves and cried about this and that. And while water was free, he put wells in and pumped the water to the houses, He put the electric lines in, the farmer.
Yeah.
So, but he had a huge farm in Wenatchee too. So just strictly apples. And everybody wanted to go to work there because the pay was a lot better picking apples than picking berries. And broccoli picking was pretty good. People made money with that. And there was always some kind of strife going on. Oh yeah, you picked broccoli, look at these boxes. Shit, people, we had like 52 huge. At the end of the day, you had like 52 huge boxes of broccoli. And some people were dirty bastards. Broccoli was supposed to be before it flowered. Once the broccoli flowers, it's almost next to useless.
Yeah.
So people were cutting it, but when they started to that point where they were flowering, they got big, and it fills the box very fast.
Yeah.
And people were cutting these flowering ones and cutting the flowers off the top and throwing the box. And there's always the inspector too. The farmer got wise to and got inspectors on the field. The inspectors were, of course, Estonians again, and they were playing favoritism time too. Look at the boxes. Well, that's some flowers in. We just leave it. So it's all this strife going on all the time.
All right.